Yes, my name is David Witherington Stewart. I'm a Florida author. I'm 80.
Carol Kinney is a writer. I write
our very intimate Reader's Magnet author we have here, Alan Karen Rennie. It is Unfaded Beauty, book 1 of 4, the new Proverbs 31 Women series.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Festival of Storytellers Chapter 6. It is now day 4, and I hope you've enjoyed the content that we've put out in the first 3 days, and I hope you'll enjoy this very special Author of the Hour session with our very lovely Russell Rucker. Hello, Mr. Rucker. How are you?
I'm doing fine. And how are you, Caitlin?
I am doing great, and I'm so excited to spend the next hour with you talking about your amazing book, Philadelphia to Yorktown. First of all, can I just comment on your wonderful, wonderful setup that you have prepared for us today?
Okay, well, thank you very much. I actually use this for a YouTube channel. And so, discussing a lot of what my books are about. So
Why don't you explain to us what some of the things that are beside you are?
okay, well, this globe is a globe that I painted, did some research on. It is drawn to 1783, which is the year our country was founded. This is a Liberty Bell that is a 1/5 copy of the Liberty Bell that sits in Philadelphia. I have a barrel over here that I don't know if you can see it or not, but it is stamped with the Stamp Act logo, which was the big argument and gripe among the colonists, which really spawned our dislike for the tax and what the crown was doing at the time. So this stuff that I have here is pretty historical. I do have a couple of posters of books here. This is our Founders Encyclopedia that will be coming out soon. And over here we have the cover for Philadelphia to Yorktown, which is what we'll be talking about tonight.
I think this setup sets the perfect scene for all of our discussion in the next hour. I think it's honestly, it really sets the mood.
Okay.
So,
well, thank you.
Why don't we start off by why don't we start by a very quick self-introduction?
Okay, well, my name is Russell Rucker. I have written 5 books. My big concern has been on constitutional theory and understanding. I have served in local government. I've served in private organizations. I have about 40 plus years, in studying original documents, not just the Constitution and Declaration, but the Federalist Papers, uh, letters from a farmer in Philadelphia, which was John Dickinson's work when they were fighting some of these things that the king was basically they were passing a lot of law trying to recoup funds from the war they had fought, the 7-Year War, known here as the French and Indian War. So I've studied a lot of original documentations, letters from founders. I've read a tremendous amount, and basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to bring things into life a little bit better, so people aren't just reading the raw documents. It's put more in a story form. These last couple of books have. And the big reason is because I want more people to read and understand it, and I feel that if it's more of a story form, then they're more apt to read it. I have not altered history. I've made up very little in order to keep it so that it's still historical. So although it's historic fiction, it's really pretty much a non-fictional thing.
Yeah, it's just you've put a story to it, so it's a little bit more digestible to the general public rather than reading these really old documents, which
Right.
I'm sure is fun for some people, but definitely not for everyone.
Yeah, I understand
Yeah,
that.
so what made you decide to become a historian in the first place? What inspired you?
Well, my founders inspired me when I read their documents and the way they were obsessed with liberty and freedom and all these things that they were fighting for. And to read through a lot of this is really, really interesting to me how they put things and really gets you to understand what they were trying to do. But they really reading all these books on liberty and constitutional theory, those kind of things that were written 200-300 years ago. You know, some of them were real old, and I would get books that were actually facsimiles of the original work that they published way back. And I really got a really love for the way they talked and what they were trying to accomplish. And I guess I really just dove in and I just loved the history and what they were trying to accomplish.
That's amazing. I wish that everyone had the same passion for history because I think it's so important to understand where we came from to inform our choices now. So, my first question for you, Russell, is what inspired you to write specifically about Philadelphia to Yorktown? And how does this book contribute to our understanding of a pivotal moment in American history?
Well, what really inspired me to write is because I'd already written about like the Constitutional Convention and what's happening in Philadelphia to Yorktown is the colonists have finally gotten together and they create a Continental Congress. And the idea of the Continental Congress is to bring everyone together. And so they're speaking with a united voice. They were, they were having trouble with the king at the time, and they were trying to find some way to reconcile with the king. And I just thought, as I went through a lot of the letters and things that our founders had written back home and to each other, that it was really interesting and important the arguments of why we set up our country to begin with. Philadelphia to Yorktown goes through the Continental Congress, and they're really doing two things. They're trying to set up a government, and they're trying to defend what will become the republic. Because they're engaged in war, in conflict. They hire George Washington to be commander in chief, and all these things happen during the Continental Congress. And of course, even once you have the Articles of Confederation, which was our first constitution, and they had trouble with it, then it was the Congress of the Confederation that actually sent um, resolves to get a constitutional convention going. So they were running our government. And the whole concept of how they started up the government and what they were trying to do and the arguments they had. And when you look at the arguments, you get an idea of what they were trying to accomplish and what they were trying to do and the meaning. See, the Constitution isn't really brand new. It goes back to the Articles of Confederation, and that goes back to the different colonies and their agreements when they set up their colonies. So they build off of each other. So a lot of things that you'll find in the Constitution are almost verbatim to what you'll find in the Articles of Confederation. So in order to understand our Constitution, you need to understand all the arguments, and you need to understand why they were making those arguments and the historical aspects around what they were trying to do. There were reasons they did this or that. And that's important to know when you study the government and the Constitution and what it actually means today.
Do you feel like a lot of these reasons have been lost in time then?
Well, sure they have. I mean, I pick up things, I see something I hadn't seen before, and I'm like, wow, I hadn't thought of that. I hadn't thought of it in that way. And it creates another layer of understanding of what exactly our rights are that are guaranteed us in the Constitution.
Yeah, that's honestly amazing how every time you pick up something new, it actually just adds more context to the things that you already know. And I think like yourself having an open mind and just doing research, more research really informs us of why things are the way they are right now.
Right.
And speaking of research, can you share some insights into your research process for the book?
Well, I basically went through letters, and I had the letters in order, and I looked through other documentation, like there are books out there that have been out there for 100 years, like the letters from from Jefferson to Adams letters, and so it's 2 volumes. And you've got an entire span of 50 years of letters. So I'm going through different sources of letters, documentation, things like that, and I'm kind of putting them in order and getting a context of what exactly was happening on this time period or that time period. And the book kind of goes through a kind of a journal kind of thing because it's going by date. So I put up the first date and I tell what's happening in that date. And then I've created some language because I'm understanding what occurred because they wrote about what was happening. They wrote back to their wives. They wrote back to other delegates that had left the Continental Congress. And then you have your dispatch riders coming in and out. Paul Revere is probably the most famous. So this is how we got information back and forth. Remember, the Continental Congress started in the city of Philadelphia, and it was a very modern, very up-class city. Brick streets, the finest of restaurants. The city tavern was a very modern brick building. John Adams referred to it as a genteel place. And that was a real honorable thing that he would say about that. So I put everything the best I could. I put it together. I've looked up weather. I've looked up different situations that were happening. If they wrote about something, I did more searching on whatever that was so that I could understand exactly what was happening. And then I would write about it in real time.
What was the most surprising fact that you discovered while going through these letters?
Well, I think it was really just the basic arguments back and forth and the struggles they were faced. Like, for instance, when they first got to Philadelphia, there was a whole discussion of where they were going to meet. The president the of the Congress of of Pennsylvania wanted to offer them our the what's known as Independence Hall today. It was the provincial Capitol building there, and you had the carpenters offering their hall. So there was this big dispute over even where they would meet. And when they first got to Philadelphia, they were some of the people that lived in Philadelphia went to meet them, and they brought them back into the New City Tavern, which was just they had this huge feast laid out. They had some drinks. They were mingling, and they pulled the curtain, and they had this huge table, and they had this huge feast laid out for all these congressmen that were coming in from all over the continent. And so there were just lots of things that really fill in what actually happened. Now, in some cases, I had the arguments because there were notes that this person or that person took about what was happening and about who was arguing this and who was arguing that. But there was also lots of things that was happening, between regular people, between the men's wives, between somebody's daughter and the amount of money that was left for who would marry her, and that. And boy, she had like 15,000 pounds of silver or something, and it was just real interesting. The intermingling between all these people was really fascinating. And some of these people we all know very well, like Richard Henry Lee, John Adams, Patrick Henry. You had almost a who's who of your government officials at the time from one colony to another. So it's really interesting listening to this. The other thing that really made me think is, Paul Revere and his famous ride, and people have been arguing recently over the past 20, 30 years that the only reason he's even remembered is because of Longfellow's poem from the late 1800s, the Ride of Paul Revere. And what I really found interesting there was he was actually coming in with information. It really showed that he was much more than just a one-time rider. He was the dispatch rider they were sending back and forth. Once the war got going, he was running to Washington and back with pertinent information about what was happening. And really, two things were happening in the Congress at this time. The one, the first Continental Congress, they were trying to find some way of getting through the problems they were having with the king. And they divided into two groups, one to deal with trade and the other to deal with the grievances against the king and how to deal with it. And they were trying to settle with him. But once you get out of the first Continental Congress and they leave for the year and they come back in the spring, now they're meeting in Independence Hall, not Carpenter's Hall. And they're doing more work about setting up a government at that time because they begin to realize that they can't make some kind of deal with the king. They sent an olive branch petition to the king, trying to get him to understand, and a petition to the king, trying to get him to understand that they didn't want to fight a war, but they were ready if they had to. And they were trying to get him to change some of the things that they were doing that was so offending the colonists. And they were really, you have to understand at the time, they were considered, and they would consider themselves the king's most loyal subjects. They weren't all trying for independence. You had a few. You had Samuel Adams. You had John Hancock. You had Richard Henry Lee. Some of those were radicals for sure, and they were troublemakers, and they were trying all they could to create as much trouble as they could because they wanted independence. But most of them were shop owners, shopkeepers. They had businesses, they had plantations, they had a lot to lose. So they didn't really want to have to do this. They wanted some kind of peaceful settlement with the king.
I think it's really interesting hearing you talk about these people because for me, I've only read them in history books. And hearing you speak like this really humanizes them. Like you're talking about the deals that they made, where they met, the type of restaurants they were at. And I really understand why you wrote it into story form because in that way, I feel like it humanizes them more than just these grand figures in history books and really helps people understand what happened at that time and how everything came about. So I really commend you, Russell, because I bet it wasn't easy reading through that many letters.
Well, maybe not, but it was enjoyable. It's what I like to do. So,
Yes, yes.
it makes a little difference, but I really want other people that aren't like me, aren't these big, that into it, to really understand and get the idea of what was occurring because it helps everybody better understand things. It makes it less dry. Because, when you're
Yes,
reading
yes, it really
history,
does.
sometimes it's just names, dates, you're memorizing this or that, and trying to put it back in a story form and trying to put it in first person text once you have the arguments that are occurring in that. It just really brings it to life a little bit better. But I didn't want to alter history either because I want people to actually read it and understand and realize that this is what was really being said. This was what was going on. So I really want everybody to understand better exactly what was going on. We didn't build a
Yeah,
country in a vacuum.
that's right. I think the way they teach history now is very dry. And I think something like this, even a conversation with you, is way more immersive than a simple history class. So honestly, I really commend you for coming on here, telling your story, and just sharing everything that you've researched and sharing the story of Philadelphia to Yorktown. It's really great.
Well,
So,
thanks.
the journey from Philadelphia to Yorktown was marked by significant challenges. So, how do you portray the themes of resilience and determination of these individuals in that time, like from the letters to your story?
Well, I mean, you get into there's a lot of information, for instance, once you get in. I have this book divided into, instead of chapters, it's book 1, 2, 3, and 4. So book 1 is the First Continental Congress. Book 2, they're coming together. Book 3 is the arguments for a Declaration of Independence. So you get that, and the change they're making trying to put up a Declaration of Independence. It's not just that they formed a committee, the Committee of Five, to write the Declaration. They also formed a committee to confederate. Now, what they meant by confederating was basically writing up an Articles of Confederation where all the colonies would come together. And they even invited the colonies from Canada to come, although they did not come. And Georgia did not send delegates at the first Constitutional Convention. I mean, the first Continental Congress either. They showed up at the second. So these things that they were struggling to do, and with the war going on, once you get past the Declaration of Independence and you get into the following year, really, you have England, who's fighting the war with us, and they move into Philadelphia and take over Philadelphia. And by then you of course you have all the signatures on the declaration, and they don't want the king to know everyone that signed all this stuff because their lives would be in danger. So they took the declaration and they took the Liberty Bell and they took, I think it was 10 or 11 other bells out of the city because they feared that they would melt them down and use it for lead shot. So they didn't want to give them anything. And they had to leave in the middle of the night. Some left over a period of a couple of weeks, but others were hoping they wouldn't have to leave the city. But they were finally driven out at, like, I think it was about 2:00 in the morning. They were woken up, the final ones, and told, you have to get out of this city now because the British are going to occupy this city in a few hours, and Washington couldn't really stop them. Because it had been raining for a week and his powder was wet, so he couldn't fire a shot. So you had all these kind of struggles, and then you have the flight from the city. So they're leaving the city, and they first go to Lancaster, and they meet there for a day, and they go up into the tower, and they look around in the tower. A couple of them do. They go up into the steeple tower, and they're looking out over it, and they see the river out in the distance, and they're thinking, that's a natural barrier. We don't think that that England can cross this river in mass, and it would take too much to cross the river. We should go over to Yorktown over there. So they go over to Yorktown, and they finish up government business over there, and that's where they write the Articles of Confederation. So there's lots of struggles they have along the way, and there's struggles trying to get volunteers to fight the war, trying to get gunpowder up, trying to get munitions made, trying to mine material to make gunpowder, and all these things that they're trying to do throughout the colony, and they're passing things trying to get the other colonies to help out in this war effort. So that's really your big struggles that we have here.
See, I love how you made it into a story form, and I love how you say that it's non-fiction fiction. Because honestly, you don't need to write the story. This sounds like a blockbuster movie. All the things that they had to struggle through. Like you see in the movies where they're strategizing, where should we go next? And you've mentioned that there's the river, it's a natural defense and things like that. That's things that you hear in these blockbuster movies. So honestly, like, wow, just hearing it from you now, because I had no idea that all of this happened while they were writing the Articles of Confederation. Like I know what the articles are, but not the story behind it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's very eye-opening. So
Yeah, I'm just
go ahead.
fascinated by some of this, because as I'm writing and researching, I'm learning all kinds of things too. And at one point, I have a constitutional Facebook group, and I brought some information over to them and said, "Has anybody heard of this attack that supposedly happened as soon as they got in?" And nobody knew anything about it. And I searched, and we're looking for places. We're looking for what happened here, because nobody seemed to know, even among the other historians that I conversed with there. And it turned out that it was nothing but a rumor, but they believed that there were people that were murdered as they tried to take over weapon stores. And this was just after they first met. So you've got all these different things, these different pieces of the puzzle trying to put together in order to really understand what took place.
How do you separate rumor from fact? Because you can't ask these people what happened at that time. They're long gone.
That's true. But there was a dispatch rider that came in with the information that this attack had occurred. A few letters later, a week or so later, you get another dispatcher coming in and saying, "Oh, well, it was just a rumor. It never really happened. They did seize the weapon stores. They did seize the gunpowder, but they didn't kill anybody." So that's how you separate that rumor, is because you get more information that comes in to tell you that isn't exactly what happened, and it was just a wild rumor.
Oh, wow. So more research, which is the
Yes,
backbone of everything, really.
yeah.
So, in what ways do you believe that the events during that time, like, how does that resonate with the issues that we face today?
Well, you have a great difference of opinion between, say, North and South Carolina and Philadelphia, New York. You have different kinds of people. You have those that were planners, like Thomas Jefferson was a planter, Madison was a planter, and they had these vast states where they had slave labor. You had all these things going on. Then you had up in the north, like Alexander Hamilton wanted to create a more of a trade kind of economy. And you get up into upper New York, and they're trying to have more of a mercantile type economy. So you have a lot of differing opinions. It's kind of like what you have today. You have somebody in Congress that is way off on the right. You have somebody else that's way off on the left. And then you've got all these people in between, and they all got to settle to try to accomplish anything at all. And this period of time is no different, because you have all these different factions of people that are trying to do this or they're trying to do that. Just in the very beginning, you have individuals that want to separate from the crown, and there are those that want to appease the crown. In fact, some actually turn traitor later, even within the book. There are some that turn traitor just because they really were still loyal to England. And so you have those kind of things, but it never really changes. Today you have party politics, and it's much more in depth than you had then. But the arguments and the fissures between these groups and between these people were still there. So they're still trying to pound out something and get some kind of agreement, just trying to get the Declaration passed. And the Committee of Five was formed, but they didn't approve a declaration when they set up the Committee of Five. They set up the Committee of Five in case they would write that they could approve a Declaration of Independence. So that's where they, and then once it was finally approved, then they had a formal document to approve. So you had all those kind of things going on. So there's just this huge difference of opinion. And there have been periods in history where it's been more vicious than others. But yeah, you had a big division here too. You had the Loyalists, and you had the Tories, basically, that were fighting amongst each other.
So even if so much time has passed, at the end of the day, humans are still human. When you have your own beliefs, especially in politics, there will always be fissures between two political groups, or even within the same political group, you'll still have factions. It's very
Exactly.
similar to with what's happening today. So learning about history and kind of how they solved these issues between the group would even be even more important today. Do you think so?
Well, yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons you have the division of powers. You have the executive branch, the president, that can appoint Supreme Court nominees, can appoint cabinet officials, but they have to be approved by the Senate. The House has the power of the purse, but the Senate does not. All treaties would be approved by the Senate once the executive. So you had all these divisions of power, and the reason for these division of powers is the flaw of man, and that flaw of man is the desire for more and more political power, and this is what
That's
they were
right.
trying to guard against is anybody achieving too much power. And this really is the story of our Constitution, is the distrust of tyranny. They just went through this huge war. They just had a king fighting with them, and they were determined not to have these problems. And that's why they didn't want a democracy. They wanted a republic. And the two are different. I know we hear we got to protect our democracy all the time, but we really don't have one. A democracy is the people deciding everything, and a republic is electing people to decide everything. So there's a graphic difference between the two systems. But our founders wanted a republic because they thought it was safer. And all these divisions of power and everything, that's the whole purpose of it. And that's really the important thing people need to understand, is there are reasons for things like the electoral college, like 2 senators for every state, and another independent branch that was where the people would be represented. And there are reasons for all these things, and why we really shouldn't go about changing a lot of this, because it would create systematic problems, not just personality problems.
So the flaws that they were guarding against back then are still the same flaws we have to guard against now.
Yes.
Definitely. So back to your book though. So what type of
Yep.
feedback have you received from readers about Philadelphia to Yorktown?
Well, it hasn't been published yet, so I
Oh,
haven't
not
told them.
yet.
Yeah, so I don't have any feedback. I did get feedback just today from a reader for 126 Days in Philadelphia, which was written the same kind of way,
Yes.
and they thought it was just incredibly great, reading that. And like we told the guy that, we got this other book coming out that's kind of in the same vein, and it's, I think we're getting good feedback when it comes to some of the things that we've written here. And I've got several books that are nonfiction, and then I have these that are historical fiction. I've tried to divide and go both ways, because the people that would read nonfiction are different from the people that would read historical fiction. So it's kind of two different groups, but I'm trying to aim to the same message. I'm trying to get people to better understand our government.
Are there any particular reactions that you've received that have stood out to you from 126 Philida and all of that?
Well, like I said, some people have really they like it because it's in a story form. One guy said, "Wow, I've never seen them speak before. I've heard them quoted as saying this, but here I have it put in first person. George Mason said blah blah blah. And Edward Randolph responded with it. And I have it in first person with the actual argument. So it's like you're witnessing the history that's there." And that's what I've tried to do. So I haven't really altered their speeches, but I've put them back into first person text, because all you had were the notes from the meetings, the journals kept, things like that. So I've taken what was said, or what they said was said, and I put it back into first person, so you actually hear them talking and engaging one another.
So it really humanizes them and makes them a lot
Yeah,
more relatable, I think.
yeah,
All
I think
right.
so.
So I actually have a few quotes here that I'd like you to react to. So
Okay.
the first one is, I am not a Virginian, but an American, by
Yeah.
Patrick Henry, 1774.
This is actually um, from John Adams' notes in the Continental Congress. Now, what we're talking about here is Remember, each one of these people came from a colony. Okay, they weren't a united country. So Patrick Henry's from Virginia. So is Washington, Madison, uh, Randolph. But then you have Benjamin Franklin and John Dickinson from Pennsylvania. Hamilton's from New York. So they're all from different places. Now, what this quote means is they're now acting as Americans. They're uniting themselves together to defeat the English and to set up a whole new independent government to get independence. So that's what he's referring to here. And so that's what makes this quote so interesting, is it really brings to the point what he's arguing. And this is an argument he gives during the Continental Congress.
I bet it was really hard to unite all of these people from the different colonies to really fight for one reason, you know?
Yeah.
At that time, how many colonies were represented?
Well, you had 12 of them represented initially because Georgia did not attend. Okay, and they tried to get some of the Canadian colonies that were invited didn't show up, but you had other, you had the colonies government that was run by England because England appointed their governors and they were trying to stop them from meeting. But you still had 11 or 12 of them that attended, and it was important for them to all get together and meet. When you get to the end of the Constitutional Convention, those final days, there are some that weren't happy that what they had decided upon, and they tried to stop, and they wanted to have a whole nother meeting. And some of our founders argued that we should not do this easily, handily, to willy-nilly just do this. That these kind of meetings are rare and they're important, and we can't just redo everything because it's too hard. It's hard enough to get everybody to agree. And here they had come to a conclusion mostly. You had 39 signers of the Constitution that were delegates. You had a 40th that was their secretary. You had 55 people that attended. 3 in the end refused to sign. The others that had just left for one reason or another. Some were too sick to carry on, things like that. So they're talking at the end of this whole setting up a government, how hard it was to come to any conclusion. Maybe we didn't get everything we wanted. And if it was up to me, we would have done something different. But this is the best we could come with the diverse group of opinions we had. And this was an immensely diverse group. You may have only had men, and they may have mostly all been white men, but they still were diverse in their opinions. And that was their struggle.
Yes, definitely. I think even just getting everyone to the same place, especially at that time, logistics wise, would also have been so difficult. And having different opinions because they're from different parts of America, which then had different needs. I'm sure people from the East and the West experience a completely different America in terms of economics, politics,
Yeah.
even weather, stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, you didn't have much of a difference from east to west. It was mostly north to south. Because
North to south.
if
Ah,
you
yes.
remember, you basically have the colonies going up and down the eastern seaboard. You don't have much of a west. All you have out west are Indians, minor settlements that they're trying to expand out there. There are Indian wars going back and forth because they're fighting over territory. And the big differences here are what I think I mentioned earlier. You have the plantations, you have the traders, and you have the mercantile factions. Now, depending on what you're doing for a living, and you're struggling over those. And the big reason you wound up with a two-party system was because Hamilton wanted to turn it into a more mercantile economy, and Jefferson wanted to maintain the planter kind of society they had down south. So you had those two big differences, really, that came right out of George Washington's administration. So that was your big difference, and that's how we wound up with a two-party system, and that's what it's remained throughout. We only have one period in our history. It's called the era of good feelings, where there really was only one party, and that was that was the old Republican Party, often referred to as Jeffersonian Republicans or Democratic Republicans. They beat the Federalists to the point where there really wasn't a Federalist Party anymore at one point.
I love the name, though, the era of good feelings.
Yeah.
So I have a second quote here for you. I must study politics and war so that my sons may have liberty to study mathematics and philosophy. 1780.
Yeah, and this is a quote by John Adams, and he's talking about, he has to work to fight amongst all these other factions to try to get not just a country settled, but then they have to try to get an end to the war. They have to get treaties up. They're up in Holland trying to get a treaty with Holland. They're trying to get a treaty with the Queen of Russia. They're doing all these different things. So he has to work on politics. He has to work on war, and he's hoping, as we all do, that our children have it a little easier than we have it. And I guess that's the best way you can describe this quote, is he's studying politics and war. He's trying to win the war. He's trying to set up a government so that his sons don't have to engage in politics and war, that they can study mathematics, philosophy, all the great subjects. The thing about these founders is many of them had a real classic education. They knew Greek, they knew Latin, they knew multiple languages. They had studied Greek philosophy, and all these things that came to play. These were not people, for the most part, that weren't educated. They were highly educated for their day. They would begin college at 14 years old, and they studied. Many of them had studied law. There was many of them also that went into religious institutions as pastors and leaders of churches and that sort of thing. So you had people engaging in a lot of different aspects, but it was all in the grand study of things. Now, Jefferson was taken by his father. I believe this was Jefferson, and he was taken around all the plantations. No, I'm wrong. It was Washington. Washington was taken around all the different plantations to meet all these different individuals. And there were others that were gaining in trade, and they were taking on trade expeditions so they could meet, and they were learning the business. And this is how they did things, and they would pass it on generationally. But Adams really didn't want to be that involved in government. He spent his whole life in government. But what he wanted, what Washington wanted, was truly to return to their places of business. But they couldn't do that with what the king was doing. They were constantly in conflict, and they had to deal with that conflict.
I think it's not easy giving up your businesses, your normal life to fight for the greater good of everyone else. And it's amazing now that they're getting recognition. We know their names from books and history. But I bet at that time, I feel like some people did not appreciate what they were doing. So it was a sacrifice for them and on their for their families as well.
Yeah, that was very true. I mean, especially you had people that didn't want to leave, and you those were your loyalists and that. And you had this great distance between many, even their own families. Benjamin Franklin had a son, and they never spoke after all the war because they had fallen on different sides of the conflict. And I can't remember off the top of my head which one it was, but one of them is a mother had given the entire house for the use of the English troops, and he couldn't even be elected in New York because his home was under British control. So he wound up going to another province and wound up representing a different province in the Continental Congress. And these things are real interesting about what's happening because there's such a dynamic between these groups.
And it's amazing to see that, like, hear about that type of dynamic and realizing that dynamic still is present in modern day politics.
Yes, it really is.
Yes. All right, I can see this amazing backdrop that you've got here, Russell. Can you explain to me what this picture is?
Well, this is the painting of the signing of the Constitution from 1940. Um, Christie was the painter. He painted two major pictures. They hang in the Capitol building today. So you have the signing of the Constitution there. And then he also did one, the signing of the Declaration, and they are in the Capitol building. Now, as you look at it, you see standing, you see George Washington, which would be off to the right of your screen there, and he's standing forward, and you have Robert Morris seated over on the far right. You have Daniel St. Genevieve, which is one of the aging statesmen. The only other aging statesman is sitting in the middle of the picture, uh, just seated there, and that's Benjamin Franklin. Those are the two aging statesmen. Next to Benjamin Franklin, you have Hamilton on the one side. You have Madison sitting up a little higher, off closer to the platform. The guy with the hand outstretched like this, he is the secretary of the Constitutional Convention. And although you can't see him real well, between his head and his hands outstretched is Patterson. Patterson wrote one of the versions of what he hoped the Constitution would be. So you had four competing plans. You had Patterson plan, which was from New Jersey. Madison wrote a plan which primarily comes out to what we have today. You had Pickerson from the Carolinas, and he wrote up a different the Pinckney plan, it's called. And way off on the left, seated, you have Gorham down at the very bottom there in the back corner at the edge. And he ran the meeting because George Washington would open the meeting every day, and he would step aside and have Gorham, as he was the chairman of the committee of the whole, meaning everybody. So he basically ran the meetings. If you go two over from him, you have Rufus King. He was the last Federalist candidate for the presidency that the Federalist Party was able to yield. So you have a lot of different people in this painting. Now, what this painting is what he put in this painting was all the people that signed the document. So you have 40 people. You have 39 delegates. You have one one secretary, and the three that didn't sign it, that were still there at the end of the meeting. Gary, he's known for gerrymandering. Then you have Randolph, who actually is from Virginia, and he was one that actually presented the Constitution. And then you have Mason, and those three refused to sign the Constitution because they were opposed to what had happened. They were opposed to what they were going to have. Gary felt that you might have a great civil war because he was up from Massachusetts, and some people wanted a democracy, some people wanted a republic. They were so decisive and kind of opposites to one another, and that was one of the big reasons he gave. But he went on and on explaining the differences the last day of the convention. So you've got that, and that's really what this painting is. This is the best depiction of the signing of the Constitution that we have. We had one that was put together in around the time of the Civil War that was painted. That's a very good painting too, depicting the same kind of scene. But this is the real famous one and the best depiction of it, because you do have an image of all the signers, and that's what's important here, is showing exactly what's taking place in this painting.
It's a lot of famous names in this painting. We've got one more picture. I think it's also on the cover of your book. Why don't you quickly explain it to us what this is?
This is Yorktown. It's known as York today. If you look in the center of the picture, you'll see a steepled building up there. Now, this is the only known picture of Yorktown with their Capitol building in the background. Well, it's not really a Capitol. It's their city hall. And this is where they finally met with the Articles of Confederation. Now, if you notice in the front, off on the left, you have a stagecoach there. Okay, you have a wagon. Okay, now what York was a drop-off point with people going further west. So as you settled America, United States, you would go from one area to the next, and each generation would go a little further and settle or go west, young man, go west, that kind of thing. And so it's showing exactly how primitive this is, with the mud streets, and there is no luxury here. When they started in the Continental Congress, you had nothing but luxury in Philadelphia. So they went from one extreme to the other. They were driven out of Philadelphia. And Philadelphia was basically conquered, and they held it mostly throughout the entire war until Britain got fed up with them out in Philadelphia and wanted them back in New York. And so it really shows the difference between the places. This painting of York, or this depiction of York, Yorktown, really shows an extreme primitive that there is. There's no English here. It's all, I believe it was German or Dutch. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head right at the moment. But they couldn't speak English, most of them. They were eating in the bars and the taverns, and that there was just no luxury there. But this is where they finally got the Articles of Confederation worked on and signed. There were several different versions of the Articles of Confederation. The first was written by Franklin and submitted shortly after July 4th, 1776. And you had several different versions that were written, and what they finally settled on, they finally settled in Yorktown there. So they finally got their Articles of Confederation passed, and they sent them to the colonies for approval. And this is the story, really, of setting up the government. And I have highlighted the sections that set up the government. There's plenty of talk about the war going throughout, which are really the main two things. But this is what I tried to focus on, because the modern government and what we have today really kind of works into it. And that's what I was trying to tell, was the story of our government.
That's amazing. I can't believe going from a place like Philadelphia and then going to Yorktown. And they pretty much had to make that decision very quickly as well, because they were run out of Philadelphia. So
Yeah.
it's amazing to see that photo as well. So, Russell, that's pretty much all of the time that we've had today. We'll just do one last thing, a very, very quick game for our viewers to really get them to engage. I just have one question for our viewers, and the winners will actually receive a free copy, a copy of Russell's book. We will have 3 winners. So the question is, what book is Russell going to publish next? Right? What book is Russell going to publish next? What is the title of that book? While we're waiting for the winners to come in, Russell, why don't you tell us where we can get your book?
Well, I do have a website, russelljrucker.com, although the book's not up there right now because I haven't got it published. But you can get my other 3 books there, and also on Amazon. You can find me on Amazon, and that's really a couple of places you can get it. I mean, I do go to book shows and sell my own copies there too sometimes, and but you can get a signed copy from me if you go to my website. So
nice. What's the name of your YouTube channel?
Pardon?
What's the name of your YouTube channel?
Oh, it's Constitutional Talks, and
Constitutional Talks.
Yeah, I drop a video every Monday morning at 5 a.m. and I try to discuss about some small aspect of it, probably usually from as few as 2 or 3 minutes all the way up to 20, depending on what we're talking about that morning.
Okay, I think I have the winners now. We have the 3 winners. Their names will be flashed up on screen. We have Catherine Sanchez. Congratulations, Catherine. We have Tamara Smits. Congratulations, Tamara. And lastly, we have Billy Remington. Congratulations, Billy. So thank you for participating in our little game at the end of our Author of the Hour session. Russell, any last words?
Well, to the winners, I hope you really enjoy the book. You know, I put a lot into it, and I hope you learn a lot. And really, I hope it makes you more interested in our founding.
You've definitely made me way more interested than I was back in history class. I will tell you that. And I'm looking forward as well to Philadelphia, to Yorktown. I'll have to grab my own copy.
Yeah, you'll have to.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Russell, for your time. I hope you enjoyed our talk, because I certainly did. I hope to see you at the other sessions we're running for the Festival of Storytellers, and I'm pretty sure I'll see you at some of the book fairs that we'll be at in 2025.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Russell. Thank you to the audience, and this wraps up our Author of the Hour with Russell J. Rucker on day 4 of the Festival of Storytellers.
Thanks,
Thank you, everyone.
Magnet.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Tell us about your book.
Yes, my name is David Witherington Stewart. I'm a Florida author. I'm 80.
Carol Kinney is a writer. I write
Our very intimate Reader's Magnet author we have here, Alan Karen Rennie. It is Unfaded Beauty, book 1 of 4, the new Proverbs 31 Women series.
Tell us about your book.
Yes, my name is David Witherington Stewart.
No! Ay, ginuot ko rin sa last. Naglayo ko sa last. Hello, authors, book lovers, and storytellers. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are now on our fourth day of the Festival of Storytellers, Chapter 6. And I'm back here again with you today. My name is Brittany, by the way, to have another session of Readers Magnets Book Shoutout. The Festival of Storytellers began just this week, everyone, last January 20, and will be ending on February 2. So I'll be with you guys for 2 weeks, everyone, giving you amazing books to read. But before I start, I would like to ask everyone an important question today. How are you? How's your day so far? Let me know how everything has been because here at Reader's Magnet, it has been a wonderful and productive day. Earlier, we had a roundtable session with Jill Fandrich, Eleanor Gachetta, and Kimmy Littlejohn Clark. Aside from the roundtable session, we also featured the following authors in our Author of the Hour segment here at Reader's Magnet, which are Theresa Wee, Sharon Chambers Jefferson, and Russell Rucker. Again, we had the roundtable session with Jill Fandrich, Eleanor Gachetta, and Kimmy Littlejohn Clark. Aside from the roundtable session, everyone, we also featured the following authors in our Author of the Hour segment here at Reader's Magnet, which are Theresa Wee, Sharon Chambers Jefferson, and Russell Rucker. So, everyone, again, I would like to hear your thoughts. Let me see the comments right now. How are you? How was your day? Let me see the comments. Hi, Brittany. I feel great today. That's great to hear, Catherine. Catherine Catherine Sanchez also says it's Brit time. Yes, it's my time, but more importantly, it's the book shout out time. I'm fine. How me too. I'm excited to see what books we have on the line today, everyone. Mary Sandoval says she's feeling great. Josephine Yu says he's eager to see new books. Me too. So I feel great today. Thank you, Robert. I feel great too. So, with that said, let's head back to our main agenda for today, everyone, which is the book shout out. We will be featuring 10 books, all from brilliant authors who deserve to shine today through their written works, a world that they have written with the magic of words. Without further ado, let's start the book shout out, everyone. To start, we have Raymond Kipyagin with the book title Love Triangle in Billionaire's Hacienda. Again, written by Raymond Kipyagin with the book title Love Triangle in Billionaire's Hacienda. The book is available on Amazon, everyone, and you can see right here on the screen beside me the book cover. Order a copy today. Again, the book title is Love Triangle in Billionaire's Hacienda, written by Raymond Kipyagin. And the next book is still written by Raymond Kipyagin, everyone, with the book title Searching for the Kidnapped Detective. Again, the book title is Searching for the Kidnapped Detective, written by Raymond Kipyagan. Again, the book is available on Amazon, everyone. So grab a copy today. Grab a copy of those two books written by Raymond Kipyagan, everyone. And next on the list is a book by Juliet Godot, From the Drop of Heaven: Legends, Prejudice, and Revenge. Again, the book title is From the Drop of Heaven: Legends, Prejudice, and Revenge by Juliet Godot. Juliet Godot's book is available also on Amazon, everyone, so order a copy today. And the next book on the line is by Anita C. Powell with the book title You, Your Own Universe. Again, You, Your Own Universe by Anita C. Powell. Anita C. Powell's book is also available on Amazon, everyone, so grab a copy too. And the next on the line is Kit Mackenzie's book. This one is an interesting one, you guys, with the book title Go West Girl. A devastating cowgirl comes of age on the wild frontier. Her gun is snake strike fast, and her sexuality is as fluid as a miner's whiskey. Again, the book is written by Kit Mackenzie. Go West Girl. A devastating cowgirl comes of age on the wild frontier. Her gun is snake strike fast, and her sexuality is as fluid as a miner's whiskey. This is a very interesting book. I want to read it too. So far, the books I've mentioned so far, I want to read them all. I'm definitely gonna add them to my reading list. And the next book, everyone, is still written by Kit Mackenzie with the book title The Outlaw's Return. This riveting adventure follows cowgirl Jeannie Morgan in her desperate search for identity and acceptance in the lawless West. Again, the book title is The Outlaw's Return. This riveting adventure follows cowgirl Jeannie Morgan in her desperate search for identity and acceptance in the lawless West. So the two books, everyone, is actually book one and two. So order a copy of the two books written by Kit Mackenzie, available on Amazon. Next one on the list is a book written by Dylan Benson, and I'm sure everyone who's watching right now has probably said these words out loud, the book title. Anyway, the book title is I Knew I Loved You from Day One. The book with the book title I Knew I Loved You from Day One by Dylan Benson. Has anyone experienced a love at first sight? Let me know in the comments right below, everyone. The next book on the list is by Anna Brinison with the title Black Bug. The book title is Black Bug by Anna Brinison. This book is also available on Amazon, everyone. The next book is That's How You Know by Julie Simmons. Again, the book title is That's How You Know by Julie Simmons. Order a copy of this book, everyone, and check out the cover. It's right here beside me. You can see it on the screen. Order a copy of the book on Amazon today. And last but not the least of our book shout out for today, everyone, is KD Sharon Ford's book, The Whistle of Revenge: Sherlock Holmes and Irene Adler Mysteries, Book 4. Again, the book is written by KD Sharon Ford with the book title The Whistle of Revenge by Sherlock Holmes and Irene Adler Mysteries, Book 4. So far, everyone, with the book shout out today, which book do you wanna order a copy, or do you guys wanna order a copy of every book I've mentioned today? I really like The Northern Lights. Catherine says, I think this book makes a perfect gift. Which one, Catherine? Or if you can, you should order every one of them. It looks the same from the previous book. The cowgirl ones look real interesting. I agree with Betty. The Black Bug. I agree with Mary too. The Black Bug has a very interesting cover. I love the visual of the book cover. So, with that said, before I head straight right into our book trivia, you guys, I'm gonna be making a quick plug. Reader's Magnet will be participating in the upcoming events, which are the London Book Fair, which will be held on March 11 to 13. Again, on March 11 to 13 at the Olympia, London. Reader's Magnet will be participating in the London Book Fair on March 11 to 13 at the Olympia, London. And then the next event will be the Los Angeles Times Festival of Books, which will be held on April 26 to 27 at the University of Southern California. Again, Reader's Magnet will be participating in the upcoming events, which are the London Book Fair on March 11 to 13 at Olympia, London, and the Los Angeles Times Festival of Books on April 26 to 27 at the University of Southern California. Now that we're done with today's book shout, are you guys ready for the book trivia session? Let's see in the comments below, guys. Are you guys ready? I need energy, you guys. How is your evening today? Are you guys ready for the book shout out? Yes, yes. I'm seeing yes, ready. You guys better be ready because I'm making the book trivia questions a little bit more challenging today than yesterday. I'm going to be doing my best, you guys, to make every book trivia session a little bit more challenging. Here we go. Billy says yes. So should we start now? Yes. All right. So the first book trivia question of today, everyone, is in Samuel Taylor Coleridge's The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, what seabird does the mariner shoot with a crossbow? A. Seagull. B. Albatross. C. Puffin. D. Pelican. Again, in Samuel Taylor Coleridge's The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, what seabird does the mariner shoot with a crossbow? A. Seagull. B. Albatross. C. Puffin. Or D. Pelican. Let me see your answers, everyone. Wow, everyone answered really fast today. Someone even commented drum roll, drum roll. Albatross, albatross, albatross. All I'm seeing is albatross. Someone answered seagull. So, what do you guys think is the correct answer? Because all I'm seeing is albatross and one answered seagull. Come on, guys. Albatross, B, B, B. Albatross, B. The correct answer, I'm going to be giving the correct answer now, you guys. The correct answer is albatross, letter B. I hope everyone got it right. Everyone got it right actually, except for the one who answered seagull. The next question for today's book trivia, everyone, is which author originally had their manuscript for Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance rejected by 121 publishers? Imagine I aim to have dedication like this author, everyone. Again, which author originally had their manuscript for Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance rejected by 121 publishers? A. Robert M. Persig. B. Jack Kerouac. C. Kurt Vonnegut. Or D. Ray Bradbury. Again, which author originally had their manuscript for Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance rejected by 121 publishers? A. Robert M. Persig. B. Jack Kerouac. C. Kurt Vonnegut. Or D. Ray Bradbury. Let me see the comments right now. I'm gonna be heading to the comments, you guys. Jack Kerouac. Someone said Jack Kerouac. Yeah. Robert M. Persig. All I see is Robert M. Persig. I think I won again. Everyone has a chance to win, you guys, because you all get a raffle entry for a Kindle device. Um, Robert M. Persig. So should I give the right answer now? Give me a yes. Robert M. Persig. Robert M. Persig. The correct answer, everyone, is letter A. Robert M. Persig. So the next book trivia question is, what is the name of the character in The Catcher in the Rye who has a little sister named Phoebe? A. Holden Caulfield. B. D.B. Caulfield. C. Ackley. Or D. Stradlater. Stradlater or Stradlater? Someone correct me if I pronounce it in a different way. Again, the question is, what is the name of the character in The Catcher in the Rye who has a little sister named Phoebe? A. Holden Caulfield. B. D.B. Caulfield. C. Ackley. Or D. Stradlater. Let's see the comments. Comments. A. Holden Caulfield. A. Holden Caulfield. A. I'm reading the comments right now, you guys. A. Holden Caulfield. A. All I see is Ali. Ali. Someone commented Ali. I'm checking if it's included in the choices. I believe it is not part of the choices, Catherine. I'm sorry. So the correct answer, everyone, is letter A, Holden Caulfield. I believe it's Ali Caulfield. So the next question for today's book trivia, you guys, is, in The Lord of the Rings, who is credited with creating the One Ring? A. Sauron. Sauron or Sauron? Correct me if I pronounce it differently, you guys. B. Gandalf. C. Saruman. Or D. Elrond? Again, in The Lord of the Rings, who is credited with creating the One Ring? A. Sauron. B. Gandalf. C. Saruman. Or D. Elrond? Let's wait for more answers by the people, everyone. So I'm gonna be reading the question again. In The Lord of the Rings, who is credited with creating the One Ring? A. Sauron. B. Gandalf. C. Saruman. Or D. Elrond? Wait, you spelled the answer differently, Catherine. The answer, everyone, is letter A, Sauron. Last but not the least, let's head right into the last book trivia for today, everyone. Which novel features a protagonist named Elizabeth Bennet? Again, which novel features a protagonist named Elizabeth Bennet? A. Emma. B. Pride and Prejudice. C. Sense and Sensibility. Or D. Northanger Abbey? Again, which novel features a protagonist named Elizabeth Bennet? A. Emma. B. Pride and Prejudice. C. Sense and Sensibility. Or D. Northanger Abbey? I've actually watched the movie. I'm sure everyone's familiar with it. But I'm not gonna say the answer yet. Let's see the answers in the comments, you guys. Pride and Prejudice. Pride and Prejudice. Pride and Prejudice. Someone commented, Sandra. Sandra's comment is Prejudice and Pride. All right, Abby. I believe Elizabeth is the second child in a family of 5 daughters in that novel. Wow. Catherine knows. Have you read or watched it? Anyway, the answer, everyone, is letter B, Pride and Prejudice. So everyone who got the correct answers, everyone has a chance to win a Kindle device because they get to have a raffle entry. So, with that said, everyone, that's it for today. What an interesting list of books to read, don't you agree? These books are a must add to your reading list, so order them on Amazon today. Also, if you guys have any suggestions on the book trivia, do you want me guys to make it more challenging? Because I'll be trying my best to make it more challenging than ever, you guys. So, Joseph commented, yes, thank you. I can't wait. So, yes, everyone, stay tuned because I'll be here with you for 2 weeks. And also, I highly encourage you guys join in on the upcoming events. So this session concludes the 4th day of the Festival of Storytellers Chapter 6. Stay tuned, everyone, because we have more books for you. Once again, my name is Brittany, and as we say it here in Reader's Magnet, we share your story with the world. Thank you, everyone.
Tell us about your book.
Yes, my name is David Witherington Stewart. I'm a Florida author. I'm 80.
Carol Kinney is a writer. I write
Our very intimate Reader's Magnet author we have here, Alan Karen Rennie. It is Unfaded Beauty, book 1 of 4, the new Proverbs 31 Women series.
Tell us about your book.
Yes, my name is David Witherington Stewart. I'm a Florida author. I'm 80.
Carol Kinney is a writer. I write
Our very intimate Reader's Magnet author we have here, Alan Karen Rennie. It is Unfaded Beauty, book 1 of 4, the new Proverbs 31 Women series.
your book?
Yes, my name is David Witherington Stewart. I'm a Florida author. I'm 80.
Carol Kinney is a writer. I write
Our very intimate Reader's Magnet author we have here, Karen Rennie. It is Unfaded Beauty, book 1 of 4, the new Proverbs 31 Women series.
Tell us about your book.
Yes, my name is David Witherington Stewart. I'm a Florida author. I'm 80.
Carol Kinney is a writer. I write
Our very intimate Reader's Magnet author we have here, Karen Rennie. It is Unfaded Beauty, book 1 of 4, the new Proverbs 31 Women series.
Tell us about your book.
Yes, my name is David Witherington Stewart. I'm a Florida author. I'm 80.
Carol Kinney is a writer. I write
Our very intimate Reader's Magnet author we have here, Karen Rennie. It is Unfaded Beauty, book 1 of 4, the new Proverbs 31 Women series.
us about your book.
Yes, my name is David Witherington Stewart. I'm a Florida author. I'm 80.
Carol Kinney is a writer. I write
Our very intimate Reader's Magnet author we have here, Alan Karen Rennie. It is Unfaded Beauty, book 1 of 4, the new Proverbs 31 Women series.